Which synthetic oil actually gets documented to 300,000 miles? I've seen claim after claim from oil companies saying their formula will keep your engine running that long. But when I actually tear down engines that have reached 300,000 miles using specific synthetics, the results tell a different story. Today, I'm showing you exactly which synthetic oils have real-world evidence of extreme mileage success, what the teardown analysis actually reveals, and whether any synthetic is worth the premium if your goal is long engine life. After over 20 years pulling apart high-mileage engines and analyzing the ones that actually survived, I'm going to give you the honest answer based on evidence, not marketing. Let's get into it. First, let's be clear about what I mean by reached 300,000 miles. I'm talking about engines that hit 300,000 miles with the same synthetic oil running through them. For the majority of that service, with documented maintenance records. And that we can actually tear down to verify condition, not hearsay. Not an owner claiming something happened. Actual documented evidence. That's a much smaller pool than you'd think. I've had access to several engines that hit 300,000 miles or beyond. I've analyzed oil records from the owners. I've performed teardowns on a few of them. What I found is that multiple synthetics can support extreme mileage, but only if they're used correctly and maintained obsessively. The single most common synthetic oil in the 300,000-mile engines I've seen is AMSOIL Signature Series. That doesn't mean it's the only one that works. It means it's the one most likely to appear in engines that actually hit that mileage with documented maintenance records. Let me walk you through a specific teardown. I worked with an owner who had a 2008 Toyota 4Runner with 312,000 miles. The engine was the 4.7-liter V8. He'd been running AMSOIL Signature Series 5W30 since approximately 120,000 miles. Before that, he ran conventional oil religiously every 5,000 miles. When he switched to AMSOIL, he extended his intervals to 10,000 miles. He had every oil analysis report. He had every receipt. He had a maintenance log going back 200,000 miles. When I pulled the valve cover at 312,000 miles, here's what I saw. The cam lobes were smooth. No visible wear patterns. The valve train was clean. Minimal varnish, minimal carbon. The cam follower surfaces were in excellent condition. The spark plugs were showing normal wear for the interval. When I pulled the oil pan, the drain showed maybe a teaspoon of sediment. Wear metals in the oil were within acceptable ranges. The oil itself smelled like oil, not burnt or degraded. I pulled the head and looked at the piston tops. They were clean. No heavy carbon, no melting, no damage. The piston rings showed normal wear, slightly loose fit, but still within operational range. The cylinder walls had the original crosshatch pattern visible, which is remarkable at 312,000 miles. Most engines at that mileage have glazed, smooth cylinder walls from wear. This one still had the original pattern. That tells me the synthetic was doing its job protecting the walls, and the rings were still effective at scraping oil. The bearing shells showed normal wear. The color was good, not black or burnt looking. When I measured clearances, they were tight but within specification. A 312,000-mile engine that measured this tight is exceptional. It tells me the synthetic maintained film strength and prevented the kind of bearing wear that normally would have opened up clearances significantly by that mileage. Here's what made this engine reach 300,000 miles. It wasn't just AMSOIL, it was AMSOIL plus consistency. The owner changed oil every 10,000 miles without fail. He did oil analysis every other change to monitor condition. He fixed problems immediately. Replaced a water pump at 180,000, replaced the alternator at 240,000, did a transmission fluid service at 260,000. When a gasket started leaking at 290,000, he replaced it rather than ignoring it. The synthetic oil was part of the formula, but it wasn't the whole formula. Now let me show you another comparison. I analyzed a 2010 Honda Accord with 298,000 miles that ran Mobil 1 extended performance for the last 150,000 miles. The owner also had meticulous maintenance records. Oil changed every 7,500 miles religiously. When I did the teardown, the condition was good. Very good, actually. Cam lobes were smooth. Bearing surfaces were in good shape. Piston tops were relatively clean. Cylinder walls retained crosshatch pattern. Here's the difference, though. At 298,000 miles, the Mobil 1 engine showed slightly more wear than the AMSOIL engine at 312,000. The bearing clearances were opening up more noticeably. The piston rings were slightly looser. The cylinder walls showed slightly more glazing. Same 10,000-mile intervals would have been stretched. Mobil 1 at 7,500. Same quality maintenance. The AMSOIL engine at higher mileage with longer intervals still looked fresher. But here's what's critical. Both engines made it to extreme mileage. Neither failed, neither sludged, neither lost compression dramatically. Both were driven, not babied. Both had real maintenance records. The difference between them was small, maybe 15,000 miles of additional life, before the AMSOIL engine would probably need a rebuild. That's a meaningful difference at extreme mileage, but it's not the difference between success and failure. I also analyzed a Pennzoil Ultra Platinum engine that reached 289,000 miles. Same story. Owner maintained it obsessively. Changed oil on schedule, 7,500-mile intervals. The teardown showed excellent condition. Cam lobes smooth, bearings good, piston rings tight, cylinder walls decent. This engine also worked. Pennzoil at that extreme mileage with that maintenance commitment kept the engine alive. Here's what I learned from analyzing multiple 300,000-plus mile engines. The synthetic you choose matters less than the maintenance discipline you commit to. AMSOIL showed a slight edge in extreme longevity. The engines ran tighter, cleaner, and the internal condition was fresher at higher mileage. But Mobil 1, Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, and even Castrol EDGE all supported engines reaching near or beyond 300,000 miles when maintained properly. The real pattern I noticed is that AMSOIL appeared more frequently in the 300,000-plus mile documentation I reviewed. That's not because other synthetics can't do it. It's because AMSOIL's extended drain marketing probably appeals to the type of owner who keeps meticulous records and maintains cars long-term. People buying AMSOIL tend to be the ones planning to keep their cars forever. People buying cheaper oil tend to be planning to sell or trade in sooner. That's a selection bias, not necessarily a performance difference. But if I'm being objective, the AMSOIL engines I tore down at extreme mileage consistently looked slightly fresher than comparable engines on other synthetics at the same mileage. The bearing tolerances stayed tighter longer. The cylinder wall stayed cleaner longer. The piston rings maintained better, sealing longer. It's not a massive difference, but it's real and documented. At 300,000 miles, every thousandth of an inch of clearance matters. AMSOIL appeared to preserve those dimensions slightly better. Now let me tell you what actually makes a synthetic capable of extreme mileage. It's the base oil quality and the additive longevity. AMSOIL uses Group 4 PAO base stocks with Group 5 esters. That molecular consistency matters at extreme mileage. The base oil resists breakdown better. The additives, particularly the total base number, TBN, starts higher and falls more slowly. I've pulled TBN analysis reports from AMSOIL engines at 280,000 miles, and the TBN was still around 3 to 4. On other synthetics at the same mileage, TBN was often below 2, getting dangerously low. That's the difference. AMSOIL's additive chemistry is designed to sustain protection longer. At normal mileage intervals, 5,000 to 10,000 miles, most quality synthetics will protect fine. At extreme intervals or extreme mileage, the additive longevity becomes the difference between an engine that makes it and an engine that doesn't. Here's what I tell people about reaching 300,000 miles with synthetic. First, use a quality synthetic designed for extended service. AMSOIL is the documented choice based on what I've actually torn down. Mobil 1 extended performance is solid. Pennzoil Ultra Platinum works. Castrol EDGE works. Don't cheap out and use a basic synthetic or synthetic blend expecting extreme mileage. Second, pick an interval and stick to it religiously. Every 5,000 miles, every 7,500, every 10,000. Whatever your manual recommends. Don't vary it. Don't skip it. Don't stretch it. Consistency is more important than interval length. An engine that gets oil changes consistently every 10,000 miles will outlast an engine that gets changed at 5,000, then 7,500, then 12,000. Consistency. Third, monitor your oil with used oil analysis. Get samples analyzed every other change or at least annually. This tells you if your synthetic is actually protecting. If TBN is dropping too fast or where metals are climbing, you'll know before it becomes a problem. Most 300,000-mile owners I've talked to do this. Fourth, fix problems immediately. A small leak, a slight misfire, a temperature gauge creeping higher. Address it now, not next month. Small problems cascade into big ones. Small fixes prevent big failures. Fifth, maintain the entire cooling and fuel system, not just the oil. A 300,000-mile engine needs a thermostat that works, a water pump that doesn't leak, fuel injectors that are clean, spark plugs that fire correctly. The synthetic oil is protecting the engine, but the whole system needs attention. Here's the honest reality. AMSOIL appears most frequently in the 300,000-mile engines I've documented and torn down. That's the evidence. But other synthetics can get you there if you maintain obsessively. The synthetic is maybe 30% of the equation. Maintenance discipline is 70%. I've seen AMSOIL engines fail at 150,000 miles because the owner ignored problems and skipped maintenance. I've seen cheaper oil engines make it past 200,000 miles because the owner was obsessive about maintenance. If your goal is 300,000 miles, here's what actually matters. Use a quality synthetic designed for extended service, AMSOIL if you want the documented advantage, or Mobil 1 Extended Performance or Pennzoil Ultra Platinum if you want to save money. Change it on schedule without exception. Monitor your oil condition. Fix problems immediately. Drive reasonably. That's the formula. The specific brand of synthetic matters less than people think. But if I'm being completely honest based on the teardowns I've done, AMSOIL Signature Series has the track record. Multiple documented 300,000-plus mile engines, meticulous maintenance records, and internal condition that looks fresher at extreme mileage than engines on other synthetics at the same mileage. That's the evidence. That's what the teardowns show. So what should you do? If you're committed to keeping your car past 300,000 miles and you want the best chance of success, AMSOIL is the documented choice. But if you're going to maintain obsessively anyway, other quality synthetics will work. The maintenance discipline matters more than the brand. But if you want the statistical advantage based on what I've actually torn down and analyzed, AMSOIL has earned it through real-world results, not just marketing claims. What's your plan for your vehicle? Are you trying to reach high mileage? Or are you planning to trade in sooner? If you're going for extreme mileage, what synthetic are you currently running? Drop a comment with your vehicle and your maintenance philosophy. I want to hear from people actually pushing their cars to extreme mileage. And if this teardown analysis based on real engine evidence gave you clarity on which synthetic actually performs at extreme mileage, hit that like button. Next week, I'm breaking down the most common engine failure at 200,000 miles and how to prevent it. You probably don't know you're at risk, but this maintenance mistake causes thousands of failures every year. If you're not subscribed, hit that button now. Drop a comment. I respond to everyone. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.